My family hid the truth for 10 years.
I never planned to share this story online because my family still refuses to talk about it. But after my father died last year, I realized I might never get answers. When I was 13 years old, my parents woke me up at 2 a.m. and told me to pack a bag immediately. They looked terrified. My mother was crying, and my father kept checking the windows every few seconds. I asked what was happening, but neither of them answered. 30 minutes later, we were driving through the middle of nowhere toward my grandmother's abandoned farmhouse. The entire trip was silent. When we arrived, my grandmother was already waiting outside. The first thing she said wasn't hello. It wasn't how have you been. Instead, she looked directly at me and asked, does he remember anything? My father shook his head. Not yet. I pretended not to hear them, but I couldn't stop thinking about those words. Remember what? Over the next few weeks, strange things kept happening. Every photo of me before the age of 8 disappeared. My parents claimed they were lost during a move, but I knew that wasn't true because I remembered seeing them before. Then, I found an old family album hidden in the attic. Every picture showed my parents, my grandparents, and my older sister, but I wasn't in a single one. It was as if I had never existed. That night, I confronted my father. He stared at the album for a long time before taking it from my hands. "You shouldn't have found this," he whispered. The next morning, the album was gone. Years passed, but I never stopped looking for answers. Then, when I was 17, I discovered a locked box hidden behind a wall panel in the basement. Inside were newspaper clippings, police reports, and a missing person poster. The poster had my face on it. The headline read, "Missing Boy, Age 8." My hands started shaking. The article said I had disappeared during a camping trip 9 years earlier and was never found. But that made no sense. I remembered my life after that trip. I remembered school, birthdays, Christmas mornings. I remembered everything. Then, I found a handwritten note from my mother. It said only one sentence. "We know this isn't really our son, but we can't lose him twice." I heard footsteps behind me. My father was standing in the doorway. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he looked at the papers and slowly sat down. He looked exhausted, older than I had ever seen him. Finally, he said, "I've been afraid of this day for almost 10 years. I asked him what he meant. He closed his eyes and answered, "Because the boy who disappeared in those woods never came back." Then he looked directly at me.